Welcome to the Karen Kenney Show.
Hey, you guys, welcome to the Karen Kenney Show. And I'm super duper excited to talk to you today because I want to talk to you. I'm just going to go right in. I'm just going to go right in because I'm wicked excited because I'm going to talk to you about something, or really a someone that I love. Love, 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 love. Okay. All right. Pull it together. Pull it together. Okay. So some of you may know that where I live, I kind of like live in the woods. And I like even right now, as I'm like recording this, I have windows on either side of the computer, right? And I can look up on what I call the ridge. We have a ridge behind our house. And up on the ridge is where I see a lot of animal activity. I'm so lucky. There's like birds and squirrels and chipmunks and turkeys and deer. I one day saw a fox. I almost left my body. I was so excited. I've seen all kinds of creatures. And there's one particular woodland creature. You know me. You guys know me. Like, I love all the animals, all the time, all day long. That's just fact. And we have one particular animal that roams our area, our yard, our woods, right? And she's a little three-legged deer. And her name, we call her Trixie. Okay. So she is a tripod, right? She's missing her front left, yes, her front left leg. Now, I'll get into that more in a second, but I'm just setting up the premise of the show. So today we're going to be talking about Trixie, and I'm going to call this sucker Having Hope. Having Hope. And I'm going to connect the dots as to what Trixie has to do with this. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about her first and foremost, and then I'll get into the whole hope thing. So we first noticed her probably about 6 or 7 years ago. And I don't know if I saw her up on the ridge first, but I noticed this deer that was walking differently than the other deer. So a lot of times I'll see like up on the ridge, I'll see like a little family, a little herd of animals, a little like, and there'll be like a couple of does, maybe a fawn, like whatever. And so they'll like go scaling across, and then like a little bit lagging behind them, all of a sudden one day I saw this three-legged deer and like lost my mind. Like I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Maybe my sweetie saw her too. We don't remember who saw her first, but this is like my first memory of her. And so over the years, she has like obviously come down the ridge. She cuts through our yard. She nibbles on the vegetation around our yard. We see her all the time. And it is always like a super duper treat and a blessing for me when I see her. I'm a little obsessed with her. And I always have such a visceral, like physical and emotional reaction whenever I see her. The first day, like it just makes me immediately start to cry. I get so happy. It's such happy tears. One, because first of all, a lot of people in New Hampshire hunt. So we have put up like no trespassing and no hunting signs all around our acreage because we don't want, first of all, no, hello, vegan of like 23 years, you're not going to be hunting on my land. But we can't control like what, the forests around us and like what other people do. So we try to keep her safe because we love her so much. But a deer out in the wild, never mind a three-legged deer, but just think about like the snow, the woods, tripping over things. Like it's not always easy to like get around. And most deer in their natural habitat in the wild for a variety of reasons, hunters, humans included, their lifespan, I've heard people say, even though they can live a lot longer in captivity, et cetera, but out in the wild, they usually last around like 3 or 4 years or whatever. I've even heard people say 2 to 3 years. So the fact that she's been around for this long, that in itself is just miraculous. So we hadn't seen her in a while. And then this past summer, Anytime we see her, it's like, oh my God, thank God, thank God. Like, oh my God. Like, I just get so relieved, like, so relieved that she's still alive. She brings me so much joy. But so we saw her this summer in August, and she had with her for the very first time her own little fawn, her own little Bambi, her own little spotted, little white spots on her back, little fawn. I thought I was going to have an out of body experience. I was so happy. Oh my God. Okay, that was then. And then, like a week or so ago, um, I saw a little herd of deer down in the yard. I know usually because the dogs start going ballistic and they start barking, and Scoot never barks, right? But when Scoot barks, something's going down, right? So I go downstairs and I'm like, oh, look, there's three deer, and they look like does. And I'm like, they're so cute. And then all of a sudden I see this other smaller deer. This like not quite still a baby fawn, but still a fawn, like still young. Just if you've ever had a pet, you know what the zoomies are, right? Like you've seen a cat have zoomies, they just start running for no reason. You've seen puppies and dogs have zoomies where they just run around and run around. Well, this little deer had totally the zoomies. So I was like recording. I'm gonna get to the heartbeat. Stay with me for the story. I start recording this little baby deer like zipping around. He's like just running. She's running through the yard, like going into the woods, and then 10 seconds later, just zipping back around. So I'm trying to capture this on my phone and I'm laughing so hard. And all of a sudden the deer shoots out of the little zoomy deer, shoots out of the woods, runs across the yard, across the driveway, and kind of out of sight. So I try to like pan over and catch it. And all of a sudden I see that it's Trixie's fawn. And Trixie, like the little deer, the zoomy deer had gone over to like see their mom. And so I look over and I'm like, oh my God, it's Trixie. And I'm so excited. Okay. This is just recently the snowstorms, a bunch of snow on the ground, whatever. So I shoot this little video. I have a separate video of all the zoomies and stuff like that. And then I have another little short video. It's like 27 seconds long of just her walking across the driveway. Not even the baby, just Trixie. Okay. And I think, oh my God, I love her so much. I'm going to post her on Instagram, right? I'm just going to I haven't done a reel in a gazillion years. I'm like, I'll just throw up a little thing and let some other people enjoy her. So I put it on Facebook, I put it on Instagram, and I went about my business. Holy Jesus Christ on a cracker. Slowly. I don't know what happened. I don't really give a shit about the algorithm. I don't expect posts to do well, blah, 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 blah. But all of a sudden, the number of views of that reel starts to like take off. And I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, look, that's really fascinating. It's had like 400 views, right? And then I shit you not, you guys. It goes from like 400 to 1,000 to 2,000, and it just keeps going. And then it hits 10,000, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, what is happening? Lo and behold, here we are now, like, I think like a week later, and Trixie's reel, her video, has been viewed more than 1.6 million with an M million times. I'm like, of course, it's so like me to have something quote unquote go viral that has nothing to do with my business, right? I just laugh and laugh and laugh. Oh my God, my spiritual team has the funniest sense of humor. But it may not have anything to do with my business, but it has everything to do with my heart. It has everything to do with who I am. And the reason why I shared Trixie's video and now we're getting to the heartbeat of this episode, why I think it, and it's still going up. I mean, it's still going up and up, right? But I think the reason why so many people are viewing it and sharing it and whatever and commenting on it, and I've been doing my best to like keep up with commenting back and responding to people, I think there's a number one reason why it's happening. But before I get into that, I want to just talk about some of the comments because it has to do with this episode. All right. So, all right, actually, I'll back up. Let me say this. This is what I think. I think when you see this video of Trixie, and if you haven't seen it or you want to see it, you can see it on my Facebook page, right? Just find me, Karen Kenney. But you can also on Instagram, I am Karen Kenney, right? Live live. So Karen Kenney live, one word. That's my handle. Okay, if you want to go see it. And so I think what it is that Trixie, in a really fucking dark time in the world, Trixie is like this little beacon of hope. Her resiliency, her ability, first of all, to be around after 6 or 7 years, to be having her own little herd, her own little family, to be able to have her own little fawn, to keep going despite all the odds that are against her. I think it's moving people's hearts. I think it's really like a little beacon of hope. And what I thought, which is so interesting, is if you take a look right now, take a look around, right? I say this, I've been saying this probably for at least 6 years that I've been on the show, and if not before that. But the world is in a really, really, really kind of a shit show dark space. Now, I am kind of an annoyingly positive person. I look for the good. I look for, I look for the good, the beautiful, and the holy all the time. Like that's my thing. But I don't prescribe to like just the like, oh my God, like everything's great. Like I don't believe in, some people call it toxic positivity, whatever. I'm kind of what I call like an idealistic, realistic person, right? So we in A Course in Miracles, we would say it like this, right? Look at the crucifixion, but like don't stare at it. Do you know what I mean? Like don't become obsessed with it. So I am not blind to what happens in the world. And I try not to let the ego, fearful thought system of the world dictate everything that's going on inside of me, right? I tend to lean towards the light. Like I tend to try to lean more towards love, but I don't deny what's kind of happening here around in the world. And right now there's some shit going down, right? Donald Trump is elected president. There's a bunch of like just hatred and division and violence and racism is like, it never went anywhere, first of all. It never went anywhere. Only got worse when a bunch of white people lost their fucking minds because we elected a black president, right? So many people are collectively just like losing their minds right now, making decisions to like end, education and DEI and like all the and DEIA and just going after groups of people. Like it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare when you I don't want this episode to go in this direction, but I will just say this. I look around amongst all the darkness of the world and I just think, I want to be part of the solution. Like I want to be part of the light. And for me, part of the solution is having hope. And I think that if you take a look around right now, that's like I'm saying, take a look around right now, things are a little right now. You know what I mean? But when it came to Trixie, when I did that post and I started seeing like the number of views go up, I also was looking at the comments. And what I found so fascinating is that I would say that like 97% of people were being positive, love her too. They fell in love with her too, leaving like really beautiful comments. There's a handful of people who are like, why don't you save her and take her to a sanctuary? Like, they want the human to like swoop in, of course, interfere on her behalf. And for those people, I had to like respond and say like, hey, she's been doing just fine for 6 or 7 years. I do what I can to protect her, like no hunting signs, whatever. But there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't feed deer like in your yard. There's a lot. I mean, it's one thing if you live on like totally protected land where nobody's on your land and da da da. But a lot of times feeding stations for deers can make them really easy prey because they start to rely on that food and then they congregate and it makes it easier for the preys and the predators. I mean, to like find them. So my whole thing is trust me, trust me, trust me. there is a part of me that is just like, I just want to make her life so much easier. Can't I just leave her out some food and like da da da, like all the deer. I want all the animals to be happy, healthy, healed, and safe, right? Free from suffering. But I also try not to do the whole like I'm just going to be the savior and swoop in and save her from. I can't save her from nature. I can't save her from all the coyotes or all the awful things that could potentially happen to her. But I can do what I can on my land. And of course, if I ever found her injured or hurt or look wounded or whatever we, I should say we, my sweetie too, whatever we could do, we would help her. But there was like this little subsection of people on the internet who just cannot help themselves, right? They have to be, let's just call it what it is. They have to be dicks. They have to they think they're so clever and so witty and like nobody had thought of this before. And they're just going to say the thing to get attention or to be that one miserable human being who, has to say something to make fun of her, to all the hunters, a lot of hunters had to leave comments about like, bang, next meal. Oh, the coyote, like you can just imagine. I don't even want to give them time and energy, but you can just imagine some of the things that people said. I was like, delete, 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 because you have no business here. This post wasn't for you. If that's how you think, and this is my whole point, their comments, what they showed me is how they feel and how they think. What it showed me was their mind. Now, let's come back to hope. So for me, when I think about hope and what Trixie was giving us all, which was this look at this incredibly resilient creature. And let me tell you something, she is a walking symbol of us too. Because whether you see yourself this way or not, trust me when I tell you, we are all incredibly resilient creatures. And because of that, she is mirroring back to us the potential of us. She is showing us in these tough times where there's going to be some people who maybe don't like you, have shitty things to say to you, or might even want you dead, right? Amongst this time, she continues to go. She continues to thrive. She continues to show up. She continues to like create family. She continues to gather together in her little community, her little herd, right? So I have this really strong feeling like she, for me, is a symbol of resiliency. She's a symbol of hope. And she's spreading a lot of light and love in the world. And I think that when the forces of darkness are at work, man, do they hate love and light. Do they? And I don't mean like love and light. I mean like fierce, like love, light, the people who are showing up. The people who are showing up and not going away, especially when you don't expect them to. So many other people would have counted her down, like expecting her. Like every year, I have an expectation, right? I hold a vision every year. Now, of course, at some point, we're all going to die. Like at some point, there will be a year where we won't see her and I'll be crushed. And that'll be a tough one. But I also understand the circle of life. But until that time, I walk around with the hope in my heart that she's going to make it another year and she might have another fawn and she might continue, right, to be the little blessing that in the lesson. She's a blessing and a lesson, right, in our lives. So I wanted to talk about hope too, because I got curious about it. I'm like, I'm going to look up the word hope. And the reason why I wanted to do this episode too is I think a lot of people think of hope as kind of like this lame, it's kind of like lame and naive and Pollyanna-ish like kind of thing. So when you look up hope in the dictionary, this is what it says. It says hope is a feeling of expectation for certain things or outcomes to happen. A feeling of expectation for certain things or outcomes to happen. Okay. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then when you just type in hope, there also comes up like biblical hope, like how the Bible meant hope. And the way that I've interpreted like kind of like biblical hope is that this belief that God will carry through on what he said. And my way of interpreting that is like this belief that God is going to get shit done, right? Like you just put it all on God, you have hope and you're like, yeah, God's going to come through or whatever, right? Some Christians out there might be like, no, you got it wrong, KK. I'm open to being wrong, but that's how I was thinking about it. But I started thinking about this, because some people describe hope as a feeling or an emotion, but I also think that hope is a way of thinking. I think hope is a feeling and an emotion, but I also think it's a way of thinking. And hope for me, right, isn't about certainty, right? Because when you look at that definition from the dictionary, it's a feeling or expectation for certain things. Like you really want a certain thing to happen. And for me, it's not about certainty. For me, hope is all about possibility. What becomes possible when we align our mind with something greater, not just buying into what we think the world is showing us, right? What the ego mind has created in this, what we would call in A Course in Miracles, small like the letter I, right? QIS, right? The small I, right? This world is like kind of like the small I reality. I think that when you tap into hope, what you tap into is like capital I reality, which is beyond this world, which isn't just limited to what our eyeballs see or our experience, our physical bodily experience here has shown us. I kind of like to dwell in the realm of possibility of things that my mind maybe can't even understand. And this maybe goes into, the spiritual or the mystical or the magical, right? And I just think there's so much more going on beyond what our physical eyes can show us. And it's proof. Like so many people see Trixie, so many people wrote with good intention, right? Oh, like teary eyes, like crying and like poor creature. So many people called her a poor creature. And I let some of them go, but once in a while I would respond and I'd say, actually, she's not a poor creature. We see her as incredibly healthy and resilient and strong. This is a creature that has lasted like 6 or 7 years. She has a family. She has a fawn. She looks healthy and strong. Like, I've seen her like hop over things and move pretty quickly when she's had to. This is not a quote unquote poor creature. So, what I was going to say earlier is so much of how people responded, right, in their comments, whether cruel or kind, it was just a reflection of their own mind. It was just showing me them. It was showing me not only how they feel, but how they think. And to me, I think if we're not careful, we can get roped into the darkness and the cynicism and the hopelessness and the helplessness. Like right now, I think there are a lot of powers that be that want the masses, that want the people to be divided, and look, there's a lot of reasons to feel divided right now, right? There's a lot of us that feel very differently from one another. I understand why it happens, right? But part of this is recognizing that how do I say that? When you say the words they, I like that. Okay, there's a lot that there is a lot of kind of push to have us feel overwhelmed, to have us feel hopeless, to have us feel helpless. That's what the powers that be want. Because when you feel that way, you don't fight back, you don't show up, you don't call your Congress, you don't call your representatives, you don't gather together in community. You just kind of want to stay in your little bubble and other people and not get too involved because you feel exhausted and overwhelmed. And I get it. We all have to follow our own individual curriculum. And there are times when activists need rest. There are times when we need to take a time out. There are times when you need to just find a safe place to rest your head and take a few winks and have a good meal and have somebody hug you and let you cry and tell you it's all right. That is all totally appropriate to the madness. And I always say, we need to do these things, and then we need to get back down to the business of love. And I don't mean love and light, right? Although in my previous episode, I talked about how fierce and powerful love and light can be in the right context, right? But I mean, we have to not get hopeless. Because when we get hopeless, we tend to feel helpless, and we can start to create reasons or excuses or things that tells us, it's never going to change. We can't do anything. It's just how it is. It's like, nope. Mm-mm-mm. And to me, Trixie is like is like kind of like this bright shining light of reminding me of my own strength, reminding me of my own resiliency, reminding me that no matter, even when the odds are stacked against you and people don't think you're going to make it through another season, boom, you show up in the spring and you don't show up alone. You show up with your herd, you show up with your community, you show up with your people, right? You know what I'm saying? So she's been absolutely incredible. And I think that, a lot of people, think that to be hopeful, especially in unprecedented times or dark times or whatever you want to call them, that it's naive. And to me, it's not naive at all. I think it's incredibly powerful. It's because I'm not relying on just myself, right, to know the answer or to have it figured out. This to me is like moving again beyond what my human eyes show me. What we might call in the Course of Miracles, like, is above the battleground, is to take a different POV, to have a POV, like a different point of view, to have a shift in perception from fear, like, oh my God, Trixie, the predators are gonna get her, like fuck off, you know what I mean? Like there's like no need. I'm like, why do people insist on going on other people's, pages or threads or posts to just try and take like, a big shit on whatever they're saying? It's like, it's just, humans are so sometimes exhausting. We're also incredible, but sometimes you're exhausting. Okay. But so I love having hope. Call me naive, call me whatever you want to call me, but I love having hope. And I want to share with you, I'm going to share with you a quote, a little passage. That is one of the things that I remind myself of when it starts to feel like, oh my God, the bastards are winning or whatever, right? There's several quotes I think of. Gandhi has a quote that I love. I've talked about before, and maybe I'll talk about it on another episode soon. So I rely on a lot of the members of my spiritual team when things start to get extra weird and extra kooky out there. I draw upon the wisdom of my spiritual team. So in a moment, I'm going to share with you this quote or this way of thinking that has been incredibly helpful to me, and it's something that I want to leave you with. But I also want to say this, like, this is a great time to kind of like check yourself, right? To just take a moment to just like slow down and tune in and to be really honest with yourself. I always say, like, notice what you notice, but kind of take a moment. See if you can do a little moment of inventory. Do this out of curiosity and not judgment. Do it out of awareness and not shaking your finger at yourself. I always say, be curious, because that's what what you need, and what your mind needs is your compassion and your curiosity. What it doesn't need is your contempt. Okay. So, and your judgment. So let's like swing open the love doors and approach this little exercise in this way. But if you could just kind of notice what it's been like in your headspace. What have the quality of your thoughts been? Quality of your thoughts about yourself, quality of your thoughts about others, quality about your thoughts about the world, right? What has the quality of your thoughts been? What has the quality of your words been? The things you say to yourself, the things you've been writing, the things you've been speaking power into, right? Just start to notice these things. Start to notice when you start to shift over into that ego side. I often joke about how the mind is like a duplex. And on one side is the right-mindedness, right? On the miracle mindedness, and on the left side is like where the ego goes to goes to have parties. The wild keggers with the sticky floor, right? So people in the nest know what I'm talking about. It's kind of like an inside thing. So when you find yourself spending a little bit too much time over on that side, over in the place where the darkness is, again, I'm not talking about like, oh, just be positive all the time. But when you find yourself kind of shifting into that hopelessness or that helplessness or that throwing your hands up or just being completely exhausted and not having anything left to give because you're not taking like care of yourself, just like notice that. And know that you can choose differently. Know that you can choose again. Know that you can take a moment to catch your breath and rest. And then maybe you'll get your own assignment. I'm going to talk about that on another individual curriculum or individual assignment soon, because we all have a role to play. We all have a role to play, and you matter. And we need your love. We need your light. We need your gifts. We need your talent. We need your brilliance. We need your hope. We need your hope. Okay. And it can be really easy right now to not feel that way. So you just take a moment with yourself. You slow down, you sit, you close your eyes, maybe. Take a couple of good deep breaths in through the nose, exhale out twice as long through the mouth. Let that nervous system start to maybe downregulate a little bit. And then just get honest with yourself and ask yourself, like, yeah, what kind of thoughts have I been having lately? You know, what kind of words have I been putting out into the universe? And for me, I think one of the most resilient things that we can do is to remain hopeful, to remain joyful, to keep showing up and caring for one another and loving one another and looking out for our neighbors, looking out for people who maybe look different than us, right? We cannot start to see each other as the enemy. And I know, like, look, I get it. There are a lot of people acting in a lot of ways that I am not down with. I am not okay with, you know. If you're somebody who is okay with so much of the racism and the hatred and the violence that's going on in the world, we are not in the same fucking camp. Like, just know that. Right? I still love you. Still help you out if I can. And right? It's like Jesus. Okay, and we're back. So I want to share something here about this idea that to be hopeful is to be naive. And this is a quote by a guy named Guru Singh. And he says this. He says this. And it's about this concept. It's about the concept. You know how people say to you, like, don't get your hopes up? I've never really liked it when people say to me, don't get your hopes up. I'm like, why? Don't try to bring me down. I understand that they see it as a way of trying to protect you. They might even see it as a way of loving you because they don't want you to be quote unquote disappointed, right? So people say, oh, don't get your hopes up. Like, don't have high expectations of yourself or anybody else. And I'm like, yeah, no, that never really sat well with me. I don't really like that. Like, don't be like a patty pooper. Right? Like, don't be coming on my post about Trixie talking about predators and shooting her and all. Like, just like beat it. Like, just piss off. Like, beat it, you know? Oh my God. Okay. But listen to this. This is from Guru Singh. I'm going to say it slowly. I might even say it twice because sometimes I need to hear things said twice for it to kind of sink in. Okay, so whatever your dream is, whatever your hope is, whatever your dream is, right? We are now entering the realm of possibility. This is like going from the Wizard of Oz when the Wizard of Oz goes from black and white into color. Like, we are moving into that technicolor vision, okay? He says, walk as if and fill in the blank, right? Dream your dream and walk as if whatever that dream is has already happened. Okay. This is what he says. Like, walk as if whatever that dream is, get your hopes up. Like, whatever the dream is, walk as if it's already happened. Dream your dream, not what anybody else tells you. Dream your dream and walk as if whatever the thing is has already come true. And he says this because we know what we want. We know what we want. And when we know what we want, we receive our expectations. So learn to expect the best. Don't follow that old saying that says, don't get your hopes up or don't get your expectations up. You don't want to be disappointed. Because if you don't want to be disappointed, don't be. Act in a different way. So walk as if and get your expectations way up there. And you be you and be nobody else. And that's the directive. Walk as if, keep those hopes way up there. So I walk as if I'm going to see Trixie next year too. I hope I see her a lot more this winter season. I hope she's doing fantastic. I believe in her. And when the sad time comes, when I don't see her anymore, yeah, I will probably cry my little eyes out, right? If I hear from somebody, a local neighbor or whatever who finds her body, because we all know who she is, right? Our little three-legged deer, little Trixie. If the time comes, I'll be really sad. But you know what? I'm not going to focus on the fact that she has had a long life. That's what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus not on, oh, she's dead, it's so awful. Although, like I said, I will cry, but I'm going to focus on how much joy she brought us, how much hope she brought us, right? Having hope right now is a really kind of like rebellious thing, like not getting sucked into the undertow of negativity and hatred and throwing up our hands or sticking our heads. No, it's like we're showing up. We're making calls. We're going to get some shit done. We are a resilient people. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget that. Okay. So you go out there and you walk as if to. Keep your hopes way up there. Having hope is a rebellious act. It is a brave act. It is a strong act, right? It's not naive because I've seen some things in my lifetime. I have seen some things in my lifetime that I just think like, holy shit, something greater than me got involved there, right? Just like meaning like I think that love wins. Maybe I'm an idiot. And the jury is still out. But I think love wins in the end. I think that's a good place to end. All right, you guys, I'm having a lot of hope over here, and I hope you're having hope too. So wherever you are in the world. All right, first of all, also, come join the nest. I've been thinking about this and I'm like, you know what? Right now, with the world being the way it is such a great time to be around people, to be in a little community of people, right? Who are noticing, who are paying attention, who are staying hopeful, who are learning, right? Not just spiritual principles, but practical tools, practical neuroscience tools to help us. Like the nest is such a cool little space. It's like a cool little family. Like, come join us. Go to KarenKenney.com/nest. I just had to say that. Okay. And we're back. Because I'm like, I can't believe more people haven't wanted to join this thing. And it's not about me, like, oh, because of me, but it's like what the nest offers you in these very turbulent times. It is like a beautiful space, a beautiful space. And it's not just like, oh, we sit around and theorize, but like we can get some shit done from the inside out because that's the only way. That's the only way that the world changes. It's an inside job. More on that later. Okay, here we go. Wherever you go, may you leave the people, the animals, the place, the environment, and yourself better than how you found it. Wherever you go, may you and your energy and your presence and your love and your hope be a blessing. Bye.